Hi, I'm Katie Hendrickson, and my Communications 110 project is based on tensions between ultra-Orthodox Jews and non-Jews in the response to coronavirus. As COVID-19 quickly spreads through every country in the world and affects anyone regardless of race, religion, or culture, we see a massive global reaction. Many are fighting back and doing their best to stop the virus as quickly and effectively as possible, sacrificing their jobs, social interactions, sanity, religious obligations, and education in hopes that the curve will flatten and that life will be able to resume as normal. It's a tense time for everyone, and because of high stress and anxiety levels, people have been a little more on edge than usual, as we can probably observe. They have also been more judgmental of other groups' responses to the virus. Unfortunately, this can sometimes lead to cross-cultural finger-pointing, shaming, and even, in the case that I'll address today, allegations of AntiSemitism. One group that has been significantly affected by the coronavirus is the ultra-Orthodox Jewish community, especially in Israel, though also in places in the US, such as New York State. Some individuals have taken to social media, blaming these groups for spreading the virus and being irresponsible citizens in their response to government orders. According to a New York Daily News article, threats of violence and calls for medical professionals to limit assistance to these communities in an act of retaliation have been made. One man is even alleged to have jokingly suggested that they drop a bomb on a Jewish community in New York City to stamp out the offenders. In Israel, where many of the ultra-Orthodox community don't have smartphones or television and therefore have little access to the news about coronavirus, volunteers and government officials drive through the streets, blaring from loudspeakers. Anyone who defies doctors' and health officials' orders to protect against coronavirus is considered as if plotting murder, and you must turn him in to authorities. Posters have been plastered in ultra-Orthodox neighborhoods with slogans screaming "murderers" to all those who disobey government orders. But where do these responses and comments come from? What evidence may have led to them? And is there any viable reason for this type of behavior? The basis for these comments truly begins in fact. Ultra-Orthodox communities have been hit especially hard by COVID-19, and this has left many people curious as to why. For example, even though ultra-Orthodox Jews, also called the Haredim, account for only 12% of Israel's population, they account for as much as 60% of Israel's coronavirus cases, according to an NPR report. Since Israel has had over 11,000 cases, that would mean that approximately 6,000 cases would come from a culture that constitutes only slightly more than 10% of the population. As this graph shows, these numbers are startling and could leave many questioning why. One of the reasons appears to be based in specific cultural values and practices held by ultra-Orthodox Jews. Though the battle against COVID-19 has been difficult for people of all cultures, for some it has posed a particular challenge. As we learned in class, culture is like an iceberg. Factors such as popular culture, habits, dress, music are near the tip of the iceberg and can be changed with more ease and less discomfort to group members. However, beliefs, views of the world, and family values are more difficult to change. Unfortunately, the virus needs to be tackled in a way that requires a change in behaviors associated with parts of a culture that are deeper on the iceberg model. A few of these particularly challenging aspects, especially for ultra-Orthodox, are 1. The need to follow government orders implicitly, 2. The need for isolation, and 3. The need for some level of individualism in coping strategies. I will now discuss how each of these three aspects of the COVID-19 response effort attack deep-rooted cultural traditions in the ultra-Orthodox community. First, the need to follow government orders implicitly. Government orders are going contrary to everything the Orthodox Jews believe, and it's difficult for them to choose between obeying the law and their trusted rabbis, which for a while were still encouraging group participation in prayer circles and synagogue worship, and were still allowing large events such as weddings to take place. Israel's health minister, Yaakov Litzman, who is ultra-Orthodox himself, allowed prayer gatherings to continue even when his own health ministry had calculated that approximately 25% of Israeli cases were contracted in synagogues. Litzman has since contracted the virus himself, and the health ministry has cracked down with more force to eliminate groups such as prayer gatherings. 2. The need for isolation. Two factors contribute to this unique problem. First, the tendency of ultra-Orthodox Jews to have large families, and second, the poverty present in this community, especially in Israel. Many ultra-Orthodox families have 8 or 9 children and are very close-knit with their relatives. This can present a problem, especially for elderly relatives who have frequent contact with many younger children and youth. Poverty also limits flexibility. With smaller houses, it's harder to spread out and avoid contact with others. And when employment is limited to essential jobs, financial strain increases exponentially. These all provide excellent excuses for not obeying government orders. After all, our families are very important, and if the only way you can put bread on the table is going to work, it's a pretty viable excuse to disobey a government order. Number 3, the need for some level of individualism in coping strategies. Many aspects of ultra-Orthodox life are based on community support and gatherings. These groups find strength in being together, whether religiously or socially, and when those meetings are canceled and prohibited, the usual places people look for help in difficulties are suddenly pulled out from underneath their feet. This can put many in a precarious situation, especially because of the high stress caused by COVID-19. However, this group thinking mindset has actually helped in alerting Jews to the importance of taking COVID-19 seriously. Haredi newspapers in Israel have been publishing photos of community members who have died, both in Israel and in New York, London, and Paris. And this sense of connection has driven the point home for many ultra-Orthodox who are now respecting the government orders and trying to slow the spread of COVID-19. Considering these unique challenges faced by the ultra-Orthodox culture and how it has affected community members' response, and how COVID-19 has affected the culture itself, has made me reflect on how aspects of my own culture have changed or influenced my reaction to the coronavirus. How would my reaction have been different if my culture influenced me towards disobeying government restrictions? Would there be a divide in my heart, half of me wanting to respect, protect, and support my community, and the other half wanting me to obey my religious leaders and continue to attend prayer gatherings and religious events, how do the ultra-Orthodox Jews feel? It's difficult to judge someone without knowing and understanding their reasonings. However, what is the balance between not judging someone's culture and recognizing a potential health threat to many people? Where's the balance between respecting a group's culture and cracking down against that very culture to protect other individuals? There's no culture that's superior to another one. And I would invite you to consider these challenges and questions not only in relation to COVID-19 and the ultra-Orthodox Jewish community, but in any and all crises. Is it possible to be 100% inclusive and respectful? Thank you.